Good afternoon and welcome back to the Agriland tent here at the Ploughing. We're here for our second tillage discussion of the week, and I'm joined by Pat Deering, Chair of the Joint Agricultural Committee. You're in your local area, Pat, strong tillage area, and in November 2017 you brought out a report from your committee, the future of the tillage sector in Ireland. So can you tell us, where is that report at the minute?
First of all, Siobhan, welcome to the sunny southeast, and you can see the weather is keeping very good for the past days, and hopefully next couple of days will be the same. Yeah, in 2017 we did a fairly good analysis on the tillage sector. At the time there was a lot of challenges in the sector, and there always is, and it's a sector that's from time to time goes through very difficult, and it's very weather dependent, as we all know. So we did a detailed analysis at the time, invited in all the stakeholders from top to bottom, with the farm organisations, the different people involved at all levels. There was a number of recommendations at the time. One of the key recommendations was about developing the whole whisky element of it, and because we've seen over the last number of years the growth. In particular, you see, it's only a few miles away from here, we have a brewery, we have a distillery that wasn't there in the past, and they're the growth sector at the moment, right around the country. 10 years ago, I think there was only about 3 or 4 distilleries or breweries. Now we have up to 60 or 70, and growing by the week. You know, I think there's huge potential in that regard. It's one area there's a lot of potential in. But the report itself, 2017 is now 2 years to go, and what we will be doing in the next term, we've actually decided already that we'll be revisiting that report to see exactly the recommendations we did at the time, to see that they need to be updated, and what more we can do with them to move forward. Some of the stuff has been maybe outdated, and it needs to be updated. So we'll be looking at that in the next couple of months to see exactly what we can do with it and see how far the implementation is going. At the time, when the process is that we do a report, we sent it on then to the minister, it's discussed in the Dáil. This report was discussed in the Dáil and we got general agreement in, let's say, about February 2018 or thereabouts. So things have changed and moved on since that, and we hope now that we'll look at it again now in the next period of time. Things
have changed, Pat, and I suppose you mentioned the distilleries there. I think there's 52 distilleries at the minute being built or are built, but one thing that's changed since that report, the GI has come out, the geographical indication, and that GI doesn't say anything about the product that makes that whisky, so it's all about the process. So is it right for tillage farmers to, we need premium products, tillage farmers need to be growing malt and barley to ensure a higher income, but is it right for tillage farmers to be building their future on maybe an industry that isn't secure? Like, there's no requirement to include a percentage of Irish grain in that Irish whisky. Is it really Irish? And we know that there's malt being imported all of the time. Malt came in from Ceuta last year. Ceuta is about 4,500 acres in size. It's on the Strait of Gibraltar. That malt most likely came from North Africa, and after that we don't know where it came from. We produce high quality malt and barley here in Ireland. So is it right for farmers to be dependent on that whisky industry?
No, I wouldn't, but there's huge potential going forward. I think there's something that we can develop. I totally agree. When this is an issue that came up during the report, during the talk to the different sector stakeholders, that the importation of these products, we can replace those. We have the best tillage grown areas in the world. Yeah. We do things very well in Ireland, and we have that potential to even do it for. But we need that protection. Absolutely, I totally agree with your point. We need that protection to make sure that that we're not being pushed to one side with these imports that are coming in.
Is it something you look at in the next?
Absolutely, it is something that did come up for discussion in the report initially, and it's something we'll be looking at in detail in the next while as well.
And just, I suppose, on the topic of imports. We hear a lot about Mercosur and beef imports, but a lot of tillage farmers are becoming increasingly annoyed. There's imports coming from those Mercosur countries to Ireland, and I think Irish farmers accept we can't feed the national herd here in Ireland. We have to import, but there is imports coming. There's maize coming all the time from countries like Brazil, where we're hearing about these deforestation fires. They're using chemicals that we no longer use here in Ireland. So what are the checks on that maize coming in? There's maize coming in, and grain in general. The department, we appreciate, are very vigilant. but there's lots of ways for the grain to come in. It can come over the border. What's checked on grain coming over the border?
Yeah, I suppose there's some products obviously that we can't produce here that we're going to have to import. But generally speaking, I think from a climate change point of view, and you mentioned Mercosur, and that's a very topical issue at the minute, I personally feel there's an inherent contradiction in the Mercosur agreement, because if we're cutting down, if the Brazilians are cutting down rainforests on a daily or an hourly basis, to be able to grow more grass, to feed more cattle and so on and so forth, I think it defeats the purpose. And we transporting, or the European Commission or whoever, transporting that halfway around the world, while at the same time we can produce that product as efficiently here as anywhere else. So I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed at a European Commission level as well, I'd say, as well as Irish level.
And is that something that you look to do? Will you go to?
Yeah, as I said, there's a number of things that the report was completed in 2017, almost 2 years ago. It needs to be updated now at this stage. These are issues that have come to the fore, especially in more recent weeks and months, especially with Mercosur and all those issues. And it's something that we need to add to that report as well as we move on now.
And the biggest user of Irish grain in this country is the Grain and Feed Association. And I have a list of the people who contributed to the report here. The Grain and Feed Association, the biggest user of the grain, they weren't in that report. So is there a reason why, or will they be included the next time?
There was no real particular reason why. We would have done an analysis of the different stakeholders that would have been or should be involved in the discussions. We were out to them all, looked for submissions. We may have, like off the top of my head, I'm not sure why they weren't invited. I'm not sure whether they weren't invited or didn't come in. I'm open to contradiction on that one. But if they have an input to make into an addition to this report, we will have them in before our committee.
Okay, very good. And Pat, there was a lot of recommendations in the report. One of the recommendations was a logo about Irishness, and at the time it was said that it would be easily implemented. But 2 years on now, it's not easily implemented. When is that going to be implemented?
Yeah, the logo was one of the things that we kind of thought was something that could fly very quick. It is disappointing. Our role, I suppose, is to do the analysis and put the report together and then pass it on to the Department of Agriculture for further development. It is something that we're disappointed about, that it hasn't moved on. I think the logo is something, as I said, that was something that got a lot of traction on our committee at the time, and I would have liked to think that it could have been done by now, and it's something obviously that we're going to have to assess and see exactly what the stumbling blocks in that regard.
And there was 35 recommendations, Pat. What else has there been progress on?
Yeah, I suppose the 35 recommendations, and there were, I suppose, in some cases, some people might say they were general enough. The logo one was one that we thought would have been the one that would have been the least difficulty to kind of push on with. It hasn't happened. There's been a bit of progress on the distilleries issue. I think it's something that there's progress in that regard. There's progress in all of them in some way or another, but not enough. There's no doubt about that. And it's something that our power is limited enough from an implementation point of view. We would like to have more power in that regard, which we don't have at the moment. And something that maybe we look at from a Dáil point of view, to give us more power from an implementation point of view with regard to any report that we do, be it tillage, be it beef, dairy, or whatever else going forward.
And tillage is one sector that's doing a lot of good for the environment. We've heard a lot about emissions from fertiliser and nitrogen, but there's a lot of tillage farmers in general are doing a lot as regards gloss crops, and even farmers who aren't in Gloucester, so on cover crops, they're minding their soil, minimum tillage. What will your committee be doing as regards that? Will tillage farmers, what will the cap look like for those farmers?
Yeah, well, I think that's a crucial point that you make now. I think as we move on towards discussions, and they are happening at the moment, the next cap, and we have done a lot of work on that, and it will be part of our work programme for the next number of months. And the tillage sector will play, and the next cap obviously is going to be environmental based, and I think the tillage sector has a huge part to play in that regard. We talk about climate change every day of the week and carbon emissions and so on and so forth. Tillage and the amount of land that's involved in that will play a huge part, and it has to be recognised, I suppose, to a certain extent in the cap, to make sure that any funding and any payments are available for that will not be left to one side.
There is a suggestion that maybe crop rotation will come into the cap, Pat, some sort of compulsory crop rotation. Probably not really suited to Ireland, suited to some farmers, no doubt, but in an area here like Carlow, that could have a detrimental effect on the industry.
Yeah, but I suppose one thing about the next cap, we're going to have maximum flexibility in Ireland. We'll have our own strategic policy in that regard. So it's not going to be unlike the past where we had a policy whereby it was going to be the same for everybody. We should be able to target and develop our policy to suit Ireland. And we have specific qualities as regards tillage in particular that should not be able to be at a disadvantage at the end of the process.
Yeah, and of course farmers can make their own submissions to CAP, and your department are very actively encouraging them to do so. So they can do that by October 11th, is it?
Yeah, and there is obviously a consultation process as well, which began. The Minister and department officials had a consultation process probably 18 months ago now at the beginning of that process, and that's kind of ongoing. I think it's important that people and organisations and farmers in general would fit into that process. The more information that is gathered, the better for everybody.
Yeah. And Pat, just I suppose as a final note, did you get out to the ploughing at all? Eamon Tracy is ploughing out there today from Carlow. He's actually Eamon Tracy, John Tracy and Sean Tracy are all ploughing together.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't got an opportunity to see the ploughing yet. Hopefully before the day is over. I think the conditions are obviously ideal. And you know, the Tracys are a great family from a ploughing point of view in Carlow. Over many years they kept the flag flying from a Carlow point of view. We don't win All Irelands too often in the playing fields, but when it comes to ploughing, we'll be hard beaten.
Yeah, and you're on the world stage.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Pat, for joining us today. So we're back out to the excitement outside the tent.